Hey grade 6s, I want to introduce you to the long division family, and it's going to help you keep track of exactly the steps you need to do for successfully doing long division. And the first person in the family is Dad. And Dad starts with D, and so does divide, and that's what he tells us to do. The second step is Mum, multiply. So Dad, Mum. The third step that we do in long division is subtraction, and that is run by Sister. The next thing we do is Brother, and he tells us to bring down. And of course, what family would not be complete without Rover? And Rover tells us that we either repeat the whole process or that we have a remainder that we're basically stuck with. So Dad, Mom, Sister, Brother, Rover, if you keep those things in mind, it's going to help you do long division. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what is the vocabulary we use with long division. Do you remember what an answer of a long division question is? It's the quotient. And what about the number in front? What is it called? It's the divisor. And underneath, it's the dividend. So using those three, memorize those three, and you'll follow along with long division, because that's the vocabulary we should be using in grade 6. So let's actually do this question and see how it goes. So the first step that we do when we come across to long division is we call upon Dad, and he tells us to divide. And so when we divide, we have to ask ourselves, if you've got 13 out front, how many 13s into this big number? Well, you can't do that. So we're allowed to take the number apart. So let's take it a number at a time from left to right. How many 13s in 2? Well, the answer is 0. How many 13s in 23? Oh, well, one of them goes in there, so we can put the 1 down. And then we ask ourselves, what is the next step? Mom tells us to multiply. So what we do is we simply multiply 1 times 13, and that gives us 13. And our multiplication is done. The next thing we have to do is we look at our family, and it says Sister, subtract. So let's put our line underneath here, and we subtract our number. We've got 23 minus 13, and we end up with 10. Now, if our remainder down here is less than our divisor, then we know we're good to continue. And that is, in fact, what we've got here. And so Brother is the next family member, and he tells us that we need to bring down. So we bring down the 2, and to do that, we bring the 2 straight down. Excuse the slightly crooked arrow. And we bring the 2 down here. And now we've got 102. So, the next process? Well, Rover. Rover tells us to either this is our remainder, or we repeat the whole process. And since we still have a number that we haven't dealt with, then we have to repeat the whole process. So we go back to Dad. And Dad tells us that we must divide. So we ask ourselves, how many 13s in 102? Well, you know that 10 times 13 is 130. So let's guess down from there. Let's say, I'll guess 7 to start off with. So we say 3 times 7 is 21. Put the 2 up top. 7 times 1 is 7, 8, 9. And we've got 91. So that's the multiply that Mum tells us to do. Next, we've got Sister telling us to subtract. So we'll subtract here. 2 minus 1 is 1. 10 minus 9 is 1. And yes, our remainder is less than our divisor. So that means we continue down the road. So if we've got something to bring down, that's exactly what we do. And we keep it a straight line there, bringing the 5 down, and that gives us 115. So now we know that 7 times 13 is 91, so we can probably figure out from there that probably one more 13 is going to bring it up to 115. So let's try that out. 3 times 8, 24. And we've already got the 2 up there. 8 times 1 is 8, 9, 10. And yes, indeed, we can subtract. And look at that, we get 11 again. But there's no other numbers to bring down, so we basically get to skip brother here. And Rover tells us, well, if there's nothing else to bring down, we're done repeating, then this is our remainder. So our answer is 178, remainder 11. And we record it up there on the side. Let's go on to another question. What happens if we've got a decimal in the dividend? Well, if you've got a decimal there, all you do is put the decimal straight above itself into the quotient. And then you just basically ignore that it's even there. So, what is our first step? Well, Dad tells us that we need to divide. And so if we divide, we've got 24 into 2. Oh, that doesn't go. That's a 0. 24 into 23. Oh, that's a 0 too. 24 into 232. Well, we know that 24 times 10 is 240. 232 is pretty close, so I'm going to say 9 is my guess here. And the next step, Mom tells us that we need to multiply. So when we multiply, we have 9 times 4 is 36. Put a 3 up. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 and 3 is 21. And what is the next step? Well, Sister tells us that we have to subtract. So we subtract, and we get 6. We get 16. And notice our remainder here is less than our divisor, so we can go on. And the next process is brother tells us we need to bring down. So when we bring down, we bring that 5 straight down here and put her in there. So now we've got 165, and that is, Rover tells us that we either repeat or that's our remainder. And since our remainder is bigger than our number up front, then we do carry through. We do repeat it one more time. So Dad tells us to divide. And so we ask ourselves, how many 24s would be in 165? Well, 24 is near 25, and 25 is a quarter. We know that there are 4 quarters in a dollar, so that would mean that there's probably 6 25s in 165. So let's give that a try. So we'll put 6 up, and 6 times 4 is 24. Cross out the 3, and put the 2. 6 times 2 is 12, 13, 14. And subtract, because that's what Sister tells us to do. 5 minus 4 is 1. 6 minus 4 is 2. 21, our remainder is less than our divisor out front, so we are done. So our answer is 0.96, remainder 21. And with it, and that really makes sense, because if you were to take 23 things and divide them into 24 groups, it would be less than 1 per group. So that does make sense. We're going to look at just one final example here. What if there happens to be a decimal in front of the division question? So if it's in the divisor, what do you do then? Well, you can't do it. You've got to get rid of that decimal somehow. And if you've got 3.4, how can we make it so that we get rid of that decimal? You'd multiply by 10 so that you get 34. Well, we can do that if we multiply out front, so then we have to divide on the other side. So if we multiply by 10 in front, we're going to divide by 10 underneath the division symbol, and then it will even out. And you know yourself, if you take a number and you multiply it by 10 and then you divide it by 10, you get the same number again. So this makes it even. So let's do our division here. And the first step, Dad tells us that we need to divide. So with our division, we're going to say, okay, how many 34s in 2? Well, 0. How many 34s in 23? 0. How many 34s in 232? And that actually works out to, we know that 34 times 10 is going to be 340. So this is probably going to be, let's guess, 7. A little over half. And the other thing is, we've got a decimal here. Don't forget we have to put the decimal in the answer up top too. So once we've divided, or we figure we've figured it out, then we do the next step, which is Mom. She tells us to multiply. And when we multiply, 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 3 is 21, 22, 23. Ah! And look at what's happened. We've got a number that is bigger than the number we're supposed to subtract from. And we can't do that. So what that means is that we have to, our number up top is too big. So we redo this, and now we know the answer must be 6. So let's go to 6. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 20. And now the next step, the family tells us that sister is next, and we are supposed to subtract. So we subtract that number. We've got 8. We have 2. So it's 28. And when you've got 28 in the remainder and 34 in the divisor, then you're fine, because we're less down here. So then we go on to the next member of the family, and that, of course, is brother, telling us to bring down. And when we bring down, we've got the 5 coming down here. And we ask ourselves, how many 34s in 285? Don't forget, we have to move this decimal up there. And we know that 6 times 34 is 204. So is it going to be 2 more, or is it going to be 1 more? Well, let's try 2 more. So 8. 8 times 4 is 32. Change this into a 3. 8 times 3 is 24, 25, 26, 27. Good. And Rover basically told us that we had to repeat it, so we were doing that. Dad told us to divide, so we did that. Mom told us to multiply, so we did that. We're on to sister, and sister basically tells us to subtract, so we do that, and we get 13. This number is less than 34, so we know that's good. Rover is telling us to repeat if we've got another number, but we don't have any more numbers, so we're done. This is, in fact, our remainder. And so we end up with 6.8, and we put the R remainder 13 up top. So those are 3 different division questions to basically show you how the process of long division works. And hopefully, by getting to know the family of division with Dad, Mom, sister, brother, and Rover, it's going to help you do these questions. Enjoy!